So a very good afternoon, and so in this part we want to talk about the theme of migration uh, or human trafficking along with migration, and theme of illegal migration as well as refugee crisis, and how Gun Merchant, this novel, is dealing with this very recent human crisis that we are facing. Now, in a way, perhaps we may imagine that we are a better humans now as compared to the bygone ages, and we understand that we should care for fellow human beings. That is what perhaps will drive our behavioral pattern. And we would say, irrespective of whether people are of one religion or the another one nationality or the another nationality, whatever the politics or economics or social condition might be, we should stand with human beings. Ideally, perhaps we would think about that, and if you ask any novice, any child, any adult, very young, would perhaps vote for caring for the human beings. And so we may get an image that we are very careful humans. We care for other fellow beings, always ready to help other people. And we also would say out as a part of a learning outcome, as the task was given to you, and you also said that you learn from this novel to help a friend, like the way Rafi is helping Tipu when he gets snake bite, or when he is in the crisis, or where, like Bilal is helping the family of Kabir, who is no more there, but still he will send some money to Kabir's family. So that is what we learn. But what is the reality of our existence on this earth? And this migration crisis tells us that, well, as a national identity or as an identity of community, perhaps we become more selfish. And instead of caring for the people who are in crisis, we would think of us first. Think for not I but us. Think of my own land for me, my own economy for me, my society for me, my religion for me. I will not allow other religious people to enter my country. I will put a ban on a particular religious group to enter a country. Will make constitutional provisions about those things. Or when it is told that the outsider will take your jobs, everybody will say that, well, my job is for me. Gujarati should get a job in Gujarat, Marathi should get a job in Maharashtra, no outsiders, not even Indian we require. The other day we referred to the academic sin also, academic sin, where people do not allow admissions for higher studies like research program also to the people coming from other universities. It may be the same region, Saurashtra only, but then also you will say that, well, our student first, then this. So then we find that, well, this is the society where we live. Don't we give any value to merit? Don't we consider a Saurashtrian also our people? Can we say that, well, this university, this people, that university, that people? Then what about Rafi and Kabir and Bilal and Tipu? What kind of lessons do we have? So at an individual level, what we would say, and as a larger community, what kind of rules we are making, and we are putting those into practice also, is something quite different, very different. So being a human, we don't care for the humans on the earth as of today. So all these crises are of today. If we study a literature of 100 years back, 200 years, we can say that this was a problem then, and we learned from that, and now we don't have that problem. But the beauty of studying contemporary literature is that tell us that this is today. This is the world in which we are living, and we are helpless. We can't do anything of that. Perhaps when given a chance, we also would agree with those ideas that these are outsiders and I am insider. I should get a better piece of cake than the outsider. I should get a better piece, and why my share is given to other people. That's why in an academic environment, people don't resist those ideas that this is for us and the outsider should not take a seat, whether it is for a research program or for an admission, and then even for a job also, that we keep on struggling there. But that tells us that we are perhaps still very narrow, very selfish, and we always put ourselves at the center, and we remain very selfish when it comes to sharing the things, be it land, be it economy, be it equal opportunities to other people. We are not going to perhaps do it so readily. That is what this this novel is telling us the learning outcome that we get about our society is this also. So in what way this migration and human crisis is unfolding in this novel? How do we visualize the reality of this in today's time? Then we can see that this crises are very much a real crisis, and we have seen that there are this people from Syria or this all country, Lebanon, and most of the Arabic poor countries, and because of the political strife or constantly at war, the people have to migrate to other places, and we see the issues or problems of this migration a lot. This part of the world, that is the Arabic world where they place. Then we have the another kind of a migration which is about religion, and for example, Myanmar comes as an example of Rohingya Muslims and the migration of that, and the strife that goes there, where the other people are not ready to absorb the people who are forced to migrate on religious grounds from one land to the another land. So that is the religion as a problem there. Then climate refugees, the people who are forced to move out because of climate disasters, water scarcity, drought, and all those things are driving people to leave their natural habitat, and they are forced in mass to move to a better place, and obviously who is going to allow them to stay? Yeah? And their living conditions will be terrible, and as everybody thinks that my land is for me, how can I give my fertile land to other people? And people would be having those the symbolic pictures of the climate refugees there. Okay? And then this novel concentrates on two locations here, and these two locations are Sundarban and Venice, two cities. Now, both these sites on the earth are sinking sites. There are many sinking sites. There are innumerable such sinking sites. But this also, this symbolic image of Sundarban says that how the person is standing on his land, which is no more there. It is eaten away by ocean, and it is taken away by the water. How the person has no choice but to live. So surviving Sundarban in this crisis, and lots of those problems that people face, and they are forced to migrate from these places. Now these people have terrible problems in terms of their skills also. Their life skills or academic qualifications are not good enough so that they can settle down anywhere else. They may be doing fishing, and if you just give them a piece of a land, but it may be difficult for them to sustain on any piece of land there, surviving the Sundarbans, these things there. So that is how these people will have a terrible problem, sinking islands. When we see that, it is very difficult to have a better placement for the people who are displaced because of climate change. They have grown into a habitat, and into a new habitat they are without skills, so that they cannot get an easy job anywhere. They don't have academic qualifications, so that they can get an easy job in other parts. So if we are academically well qualified, there is no problem in moving. We can find some work somewhere. If suddenly Bhavnagar is sinking down and tomorrow there is no Bhavnagar University, we can still find some job in some other university. We can still do some work because we have some qualifications to sustain in this world. Whether these people, they are for their habitat only. Now that habitat you will not find at other place. Nobody is going to give their water for fishing. There will be some people there, they will say that why our waters are given for fishing to this. People will not give their land. They will not share a land with other people. Those are those concerns here. And then Venice also. Venice also is a tourist location, and which also is sinking very fast. And we see lots of eroded walls. All these walls are getting eroded. Even the foundation of Venice is under crisis because of climate change. And it is Venice is made on the wooden planks, yeah? On the wooden plank. So even those wooden planks are as the storyline, our story tends to say. This also is a very interesting image. And it says that it is getting eroded constantly. This planks are getting eroded. And this wooden planks, they are getting shipworm. There is a plot into our Gun Island novel where this shipworm, if they get habituated in this region, then there is interest this engineering Venice. Yeah. This site tells us that how this city is built on the wooden planks, and how this wooden planks. In the foundation there are these woods there, and on that the city is built. This is deep inside. There are all wood, and so that's why the city is known as the floating city also. So this is the context in which we tend to look at the migration crisis here. So what are the things that we can study here, the reasons and the illustrations from the novel for this reality of today's society. So the reasons for the migration, the reasons for the migrations are like calamities, natural calamities, there, communal violence, yes, communal violence, poverty, socio-economic conditions, yes, socio-economic conditions there. So these are some of the reasons because of which this migration happens. And then there are two, these are, now our purpose is to see whether these are found in the novel or not. Outside world is outside the world, but how the novel deals with. So I would like to ask you that among these reasons, how do you find this anywhere because of which characters are migrating in the novel? Can you give me illustrations? We already have studied the novel, so yes, anybody can tell me that, well, if I say calamities, is there a migration in the novel, our fictional narration, where anybody is migrating because of calamities? Yes, anybody?
Yes, sir. One example about calamities that Lubna Khala and her family was migrating because of calamities. They faced floods and his land, her land, and everything was in water. So they have to migrate.
Okay, fine. Lubna Khala's example. Let us see. For example, in the text, let us try to see what we can see in the text. Okay. Let me open the e-copy. Well, the keyword is full of snakes. Okay, full of. I'm just putting this. Okay, so I'm coming to one place in the novel. So, what happened? There is the dialogue between Dinanath and Lubna Khala. And Lubna Khala says, a few months after this picture was taken, in the office of Lubna Khala, there is a portrait, a photograph. And they're talking about the photograph. This picture was taken, came a cyclone. So, cyclone, so this is always a plot mover. Deliberately, now we know that Amitav Ghosh is connecting everything in the chain of cause and effect with some kind of natural calamities. And he is very much consciously doing that as a part of climate change narrative. So, cli-fi, as people say, this novel is a cli-fi novel. So that we can say that he is connecting everything, episodes in human life, with some amount of climate change or something that is pertaining to climate. A really fearsome tufan. Tufan is the word which we have not noted down in our earlier list. Tufan, Tufaan. Yeah? The winds also, I think winds also we have not taken. Yeah? Winds also is, the winds were so strong that they carried off the roof of our house. Then the water began to rise. It kept rising till it was halfway up the walls. We had no choice but to take shelter in a tree. So see, where you go for a shelter. So ultimately you have to go to tree for a shelter. So deliberately you are making that ultimately this nature for which you are not taking care of, you will have to go to the trees again for the shelter. But then somehow my brothers managed to get all of us into the branches. But then we discovered that the tree was full of snakes. So when you read this novel, you get that uncanny feeling, time and again, that when something is happening, you feel that from somewhere the snake will come, from somewhere the poisonous thing will come. That uncanniness drives you when you read a novel also. And then you are, even out of novel, everywhere you see some kind of snakes. If you pick up your charger, you think this is like a snake. If you see a thread of a kite, you think it is like a snake. Everywhere there. So that uncanniness is being transferred from this novel to the people. And now we know why that is significant. But then we discovered that the tree was full of snakes. The climber gave the way. Just my brothers drove off, some of them off with sticks. But one of them was bitten. He fell into the flood waters and we never saw him again. One of my nieces was bitten too. She died later that night. So many people die because of snake bite. Not many people, two within one line. Just in one line, two people died because of snake bite. So this is how. So can you imagine what it is like to live on a tree there, and floods are there, storms and snake, everything together. It was Munir's father who saved us. She married to Munir, and then they moved out. And then they moved out of Dhaka and went to Russia first, then Italy, then Bulgaria, then Yugoslavia, and then they reached to Venice. So that is how the journey was there of migration, how people move on from this. So that is that example that we see here, that calamities, Lubna Khala's example we can give here. Okay, then communal violence. For communal violence, can we get any example?
Yes, sir.
Hmm.
When Bilal and Kabir both migrate, the reason of their migration is communal violence, because the uncle of Kabir grabbed the land of Kabir. His uncle have a connection with politicians. Uh, Kabir was not able to take it back from his uncle, and they are also beaten by some of people who have connection with his uncle. So that is why they have to migrate.
Okay, fine. So when we see the key word that I would like to give you to explore the text here is, if you see, there's the story of Kabir. Yeah? If you refer to the story of Kabir, you will find his name was Kabir. Yeah? He came from Faridpur district. A few years ago, there was a dispute in my family over land. One of my uncles is mixed up in politics, and his sons are the local muscle men of the ruling party. Yeah, so that is the reason they protested. Uh, one day there was a fight. My uncle and cousin attacked my father and me. So Kabir came to our defense and knocked my uncle down. Then there was riot. Kabir and I managed to get away. There were these riots because of this, and then they were able to run away. And then he tells the story. After a year of hiding, we realized that we would be killed if we stayed in Bangladesh. Now, staying in Bangladesh was very difficult there. So they came in contact with Dalal. Dalal is Kafista, known as Kafista, who is the one who manages people to go to other land. It is illegal migration. You will require 3,50,000 taka, that is Bangla rupees. And then they managed the money, airport visa. They went to Sharjah, like this, and then and now here there is an entire plan. This part you have to read to think that how migration is discussed here. So it tells that how people migrate, what they do, how they manage money, poor people. They are running from their homeland because of some kind of riots and violence back home. And then what paths they take, how terrible the time is for them to go, in what conditions they travel. In packed trucks, they have to hide. If they are visible to any of the security forces, they may be gunned down on that journey. So that is where Amitav Ghosh is taking us on a ride along with the migration, people who are migrating, and the terrible condition that they go. That experience also is shared in the story of Bilal. Bilal is telling this, the story of Kabir and how they went from those Libya and other places there. So beyond this, read this part to get a better idea that how they travel from different part of the land also. Okay, so two examples we got here. Two. Now the third one we get. So here it is Lubna Khala. Or Alam, and here it is Bilal Kabir story, we can say. Poverty. What example you can give because of poverty? Anybody? Just recall who else are migrating and what are the stories of migrations. How many characters are migrating in the novel? Which is the another pair of characters which is migrating? Tipu and Rafi. Yes, so they are going because of poverty, reasons of sustaining their life in Sundarban. So Tipu, Rafi, and Tipu. Yes. Out of the economical conditions, because of not having a better work, economical condition and other things. So Rafi and Tipu. So again, when you explore, you find the story. This $250 if you 250 is the keywords to refer the text. If you want to note down $250, you will come to the story of Tipu, and this is by Rafi. Rafi is telling us this. There were around 24 men on the bus, but they weren't all paying passengers like us. Some worked for the Dalal, and their job was to get us across the border. And there are chain of people. So from one border to another, you are dropped by one group of people. Then there is other group of people who will take you and take to the another border. Then there will be third group of people who will come. So it's a kind of a mafia gang, and they have their own connections with each other spread across so many countries. And obviously people can say that this cannot happen without the knowledge of the governments of those countries. It cannot happen without that. People in the power must be aware. So maybe they are allowing this kind of things to happen. They get some money out of corruption, and then perhaps these things are being allowed, or there are other vested interests of the other countries also. Okay, then Socio-economic conditions, are you getting any? This was this to see US 50 to $50, and you get the story of these people there. Okay? Yes, who else comes in your mind who has migrated? Palash, okay, yes. Yes, Palash. And the story of Palash we can get with the help of, let me give you a key word, so later on you can refer to the text and get some quote or read more about it. Okay? That is shady character. Okay? Yeah, shady character. Just note down this word. This is on the last part of the novel. You see here that almost at the end of the novel this is coming. Almost near the end of the novel, we see this. It is 270 page number out of 295. This is e-copy in that. So almost in last 20 pages we get the story of Palash here, and he is talking with Dinanath, and then he says that he also migrated. And well, the story of all these migratory people like Rafi, Kabir, Tipu is a very shady story. Means they have migrated in an illegal way. That is how it is shady. But Palash's story is not like that. Palash's story is of a different kind. He belongs to a better family, much far better family than the other people who migrated also from this region. So he says that, well, I think you must be thinking of me also as like that. And then said, it's not just, it's that my family don't know about my life here. So I came to Italy as a student, not as a construction worker, but I came to Italy as a student, which sets me apart from most of Bengali migrants. So he's not very clearly saying this. Back in Bangladesh, my circumstances were completely different from theirs. Most of them are from villages and small towns, while my father is a banker in Dhaka. My older brother is a civil servant, quite high up, like IAS officer, kind of a thing. Yeah? I studied at Dhaka University and even have a degree in management. For some years, I worked as a manager in a multinational corporation also. So now it is not only poor condition, but there is a different kind of socio-economical condition that people want to go to the West. They still think that, many people think that my work is not deserved here. I am very talented, and America only can understand my talent. So people want to go to Europe or America, as if they are being exploited here. So these are different socio-economic condition of the people, which is driving them there. So he was a manager in a multinational corp. I used to work in a car every day, wearing a suit and a tie. So better condition. And then says, from an early age, I had wanted to leave Bangladesh from very early age. And then he wanted to go to Finland. He wanted to go to Finland. Now there is a very curious reason why Palash wanted to go to Finland. Now this is asking why Finland? Well, Palash smiled and says, I know it sounds strange to want to move to Finland, but in Dhaka, there are many young people who have that dream. My friends and I thought of Finland as everything that Dhaka was not. So there is a different socio-economical condition that you dream in Finland or in Europe than what is there back home. And that is giving you a dream or a desire to leave your country where you are already doing well. You are already doing well, and then also you want to go. So he says, my friends there, and quite clean, cool, uncrowded. And of course, our first cell phones were Nokias. Nokia is the name of a town in Finland. So it is a Finnish company, Nokia. So those early phones. And so we thought of Finland as a country to go. Whatever reasons, we all wanted to go to Finland. It was our fantasy. It was our fantasy, our dream. The boy in our group, that one of the person got it, he went there and would send some of the pictures of those places. एखादा व्यक्ति जाए અને ભાઈ ફોટા મોકલે એકદમ સરસ. Photos are always good. We know that you can make a beautiful photo by putting some more saturation, another thing, and then Bhavnagar also looks like it is in Kashmir or a European town. You can easily make beautiful photos of anything there also. So, but then people are attracted by that and they want to go there. Many times those people who stay across the world and ultimately they would come down to conclusion that the life in countries like India or the South Asia, including Pakistan, Bangladesh, if your economical condition and if you have a good job and a good income, then life here is far better than this world where there is extreme weathers, because living in cold region is very tough, and here we have all the weathers very moderate. All the weathers are moderate rainfall, moderate heats. 1 or 2 months we have heavy heat, otherwise but the things are far better in our countries than all these countries. Yes, but economically, if it is better off, and if you are very poor and if you want to, then people can go. But still, the things on this part of the world is not bad. So, if people like us who are already having a good salary and job here, if somebody tells us, we would say, well, we are happy here. Why should we go there? There is no problem here at all. There is a good salary. We are going to get pension also from government. Then why should we leave? It's a beautiful weather. You can enjoy here a lot. Any time of the year, you can go early morning, evening for cycling. In these countries, you have to wait. Only on good days you can go out. You can't see sometimes sun rays also in some of the very much those towns like England or the thing, and there are constant rain or the other kinds of a weather where things are much terrible. So comparatively, things are much better here. But Palash took time to understand that. So he was not understanding then. So he was moving. And we have so many young people like that who just move out only for that charm that I am NRI, I am American, or I am this or that kind of a thing also. So that is a different kind of a migration which Palash is exemplifying in this narrative also. So that, and now two interesting other characters that we see here for a different reason, very one uncanny reason also, and that is the reason that Dinanath is giving for his migration. Dinanath also has migrated. So he gave this some sort of restlessness, some sort of restlessness drive people to migrate to other lands, some sort of restlessness for which he was driven. And so when Palash is talking about this, he refers to that well, Palash gives the reason that there are mobile phones and photographs, which is giving us this dream and desire to go to this beautiful world and other things. At that time, there is this what we call it, like aside or monologue, or we are in the mind of Dinanath, that what is he thinking. Let me come to that. So when he looks at this, when he listens to Palash and his justification for traveling, and which obviously he now feels that perhaps was not the right choice for migrating, and he wants to go back. But he is worried that how would my parents look when I come back? Like, I am a failure. I have not made my life in Europe, and I have returned like without anything from Europe. So maybe my parents may not be happy with what I have done. So when he is talking about that, and what is important there? Mobile phone, photographs, traveling through mobile phones, through this network, and that is driving the young people to go to a better looking place on the earth. That is what. But Dinanath says, in my days there were no mobile phones. In my days there were no such photographs which were traveling there. So he says, as he was speaking, Palash was speaking, a strange sense of recognition began to draw on me. It was as though I were seeing myself in Palash. I remembered the restlessness of my own youth and how it had been fed by another very powerful medium of dreams. And what was that? Novels. So you are reading novels, you are reading books, and so your dreams were sustained. So curious kind of restlessness was driven not by mobile phones, but here by novels. Now you can say that, well, novel or mobile, one and the same. They come at a common plane as such here, which I had read voraciously, especially savoring those that were about faraway places. I thought of my teenage years and all the time I had spent hunting for cheap paperbacks in the alleys and the backlands of Calcutta. Those books is getting and reading. And so he says, I was addicted to them in much the same way that people of Palash's generation were to their phones. So as such, it is one and the same. Once upon a time, people were addicted to books, now to YouTube or to videos or to mobile phone. Then they keep on watching constantly mobile phones for this video, that video. But well, this is very interesting that then there were books. Here it is this. The same kind of damage, perhaps. The same kind of damage. But when people read books, we don't see that books are damaging. We don't see that books are damaging also. Back in those days, there were very few bookshops in Calcutta and those things. So reading was my means. I thought of escaping the narrowness of the world I live. So that curious thing is that we always think that my world is a narrow world. Here my talent is not finding a proper scope. I should go to America. America will celebrate my talent. I will also become another Sundar Pichai. I want to go out here. This is not the land where talent is celebrated. So I find this space much narrower. That is what he says. So this is another form of migration, a different form of looking at the migration that happens here in terms of Dinanath. And finally, this uncanny migration of Tipu's example that we see is in terms of he got various kinds of seizures. Seizures and voices. After being stung by cobra, he started getting seizures and visions and voices. And so Tipu wanted to move out, so that if he thinks that he will stay away from this land, perhaps this seizures or voices or visions will not disturb them. And so Tipu wants to move away from that land. So that is a very uncanny reason for the migration of Tipu along with their economical condition. Rafi and Tipu together can be seen here also. So these are various reasons in the novel which is exploring the very idea of migration in different ways, and at the same time there is that journey of migration in an utterly poor conditions, how people migrate from one part to another part. It is almost parallel to slave trade. So he recalls that historical slave trade. So the kind of a condition in which the slaves were living in those days, when gun merchant was captured by pirates and when the gun merchant was sold in the slave trade, that parallel is coming here in this journey of migrations or human trafficking or illegal migration or various kinds of refugee crisis that he is putting parallel in this context, and says that this is the present situation, which is even worse than what was in 17th century when the slave trades were very common there. So that he recalls that idea along with this there. So this is how this point of migration, the theme of migration, is dealt in this novel. Okay, so I think with that we have discussed the major concerns of this novel here. So if you have any questions, then we can discuss those things.